Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name is Ray Petree. I'm a columnist for the Augusta Free Press. And today on Petree's Pit, I'm joined by a special guest, Big Trouble Ben Bishop. How are we doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great, Ray. Thank you so much for having me on the show. You forgot a little bit in my intro, though. You forgot to mention of 6'12", 15% of a metric ton, earthquake and pillar shaking, meat popping, jaw dropping, the one they come to see, the one made for TV, BT double B. I'll let you slide this time, Ray. This time only. Next time, I'm going to expect to get that whole thing right. All right, holding
I
you
have it
to it.
word for word,
Holding to. All right, I hope you remember. I hope your mind's like a trap. I want to make sure you remember.
like an elephant.
No, but I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Um, Dude, your introduction's amazing. I mean,
I've done it a few times.
how long did it take to work on that to perfect it?
Dude, so I started out when I was trying to figure out my character exactly kind of what works, right? So like I'm always a big believer in you don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Like you can just maybe you can take what other people have done and like kind of put it together. So you think of guys who have had like cool monikers or introductions or nicknames, like Ric Flair, right? Wheeling, dealing, all that jet flying, limo driving, whatever it is, limo riding. And then you have like Road Dogg when he would do his entrance. So I just thought, like things that people remember, things that rhyme, easy to say, falls off the tongue. So I took, in the movie Big Trouble in Little China, which I kind of took my character from. Um, he says in one of the lines, shaking the pillars of heaven, quaking the earth. So I said earthquake and pillars shaking, because it went
Yeah.
together. And then he has the pork chop express, and so I made up like the meat pop express. So meat popping, and then just jaw dropping rhymed with that. And then I BT double B is like road dog, DO double G. I thought BT double B that kind of rolls off the tongue there. And then again after that, becomes one they come to see made for TV, that type of stuff. So it's just kind of like it's always changing. I've kind of over the years I've added to it,
Yeah.
changed it, but it's something that I think is like important really for like branding for a wrestler. We're going on to the days where you can just be like, I'm the destroyer, or I'm the crusher, or I'm like
Mhm.
like you got to have something else to really draw people in. And that's kind of what my how I kind of created like a moniker.
Equal parts athlete and entertainer.
Yeah,
Today we're going to play a game of 21 questions. We're all going to get to know
it's good.
Big Trouble Ben Bishop. Starting
All
off,
right,
where
let's
did
do it.
this love affair with wrestling begin? Were you a fan as a kid?
Yeah, yeah. I've always loved professional wrestling since I was a kid. I think 8, 9 years old when I first started watching it. I was watching WCW. I became enamored with it, just like the pageantry, the charisma, the athleticism, and then just the whole entertainment factor. The first guys that I really enjoyed watching were guys like Kevin Nash, was I still to this day was always been my favorite wrestler ever. Rest in peace, but like Psycho Sid, guys like, and then Tyler Kane, Undertaker, Test. Always gravitated more towards the bigger guys. Always like the bigger guys, but of course the entertaining guys as well, like the DDPs of the world, the McFoleys, that stuff. That was always something that uh, who I gravitated towards when it came to my fandom of professional wrestling.
How do we go from fan to wrestler? What's that journey look like?
Yeah, so I've always been an athlete. So I played basketball in college. I went to University of Vermont, and then I played a little bit of Australian football here in the States, not in Australia. I wasn't that good, but I stayed being athletic because I always wanted to do something. Like I always wanted kind of like a goal or something to reach for. Um, and when I stopped playing Australian football, I just kind of didn't really have anything. I just, I had my 9 to 5, and that was it. Like nothing really to kind of set my mind to, or just I've always been very goal oriented. So I one day I just went to a show in right outside of Baltimore when I was living in Maryland, and actually Gilbert approached me and he said, "Hey, do you want to be a wrestler?" And sure, I don't know. Then he introduced me to James Ellsworth. The next day I was training, so that was in
Wow.
2019. It just kind of was all by happenstance. I wasn't in any way like thinking I was going to do it. I just went to the show as a fan because I heard Enzo on Busted Open that day. And I heard he was going to be there, and I was always a fan of Enzo and Cass when they were in WWE. So I was like, "Oh, it'd be cool to meet him, and I had nothing going on that night. And, it just, here we are. It's just like 6 years later. It's weird.
How long did you train, and then how long after you got done training did you feel like I'm really a professional wrestler now?
I don't think you ever feel that way. But so training, it's definitely a hell of a learning curve because you got to learn to fall down voluntarily, which your body does not want to do. So your body doesn't want to fall down. Your subconscious tells you like, don't do this, don't fall down. So you got to learn that. You got to kind of change your brain wiring in a bit to kind of tell yourself that you can fall down. Um, but I trained for about 7 months before I had my first match. Um, and I go back and watch it, and I'm just like, I thought it was really good when I did it because it was like 750 people. It was a big place, and I had a bunch of friends and family, like family from Rhode Island, friends from New England come down, a bunch of people from Baltimore, and they were all rocking and rolling for me, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm real good. But then I watch it back, and I'm like, oh, no, you're not. Like, oh man, it was pretty. Like I watched it was brutal. But I mean, the match was fine. I was with two absolute studs, Ruckus, independent wrestling legend Ruckus, and Robbie Illuminati. A lot of people know them from the CZW days in the mid 2000s. So it went. They took care of me. It was great. They made me look really good. But now looking back, 6 years later, I'm just like, oh man, yeah, I still had a long way to go. But that was it. You get your debut match, feel on top of the world. So you never really finish training. You always got to get better. And training isn't just in the ring. A lot of training also involves sitting with people who have been places you want to go. So I've been very fortunate to be trained by James Ellsworth, who was in WWE. He got there just by being entertaining, having the intangibles, because he's not the biggest guy, he's not the best looking guy, he's not the most in shape guy. But he knows how to get over, and he knows how to work a crowd, and he knows little things. So, being in a car with him, driving to different places, going to different shows, being in locker rooms with guys like that, that's invaluable experience that every wrestler needs to become better.
Is there any lesson in particular that stands out that Ellsworth taught you?
Oh man, he's taught me a lot, and the greatest thing is that he shows me like what not to do, like a lot of
Yeah,
the stuff
right.
of like what not to do. Um, the biggest thing that he has taught me from the start is appreciation, I would say, and just like appreciating what the indies can sometimes look like, and understanding that like, you d- you got to be. I always say this, you got to be a mark for yourself. You got to. But at the same time, you can't overly do it, and you got to understand that it's a business and we're all working together. So, and I've never had an ego. I've never had a problem with that at all. But, he makes sure that he always would kind of just, in his own way, keep me in check of like, hey, you still got a ways to go. Like, you still got to work on stuff. Like, yeah, you got a ton of potential, you got great size, you got a good look, but you got to work on stuff and you got to appreciate where you're at. Like, yeah, this podunk town in the middle of Tennessee might not be where you want to be on a Saturday night. But this is how guys get better. You learn when you work with guys who might not be as talented, you learn how to work with them. Then you're working with guys who are really talented, and then you learn stuff from them as well. So you're always going to be learning different things. So I would say just overall appreciation for professional wrestling, and then where you're at that present moment is what he one of the best things he's taught me.
Are there any other wrestlers that you've worked with over the last 6 years that you've learned a lot on the fly from? Anyone in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I could shoot I one a couple. I can go for some guys like bigger names, but also some indie guys who have taught me a lot. I'll shout out Tony Gunn from Ohio Valley Wrestling. I think I worked him about 4 years ago, and he kind of challenged me a bit to call a lot of things on the fly. And instead of me kind of being too meticulous about it. Mr. Grimm, another guy up in Maryland. At that point I was working a very like the matches I would work would be kind of similar, and he took me out of my comfort zone a little bit. So shout out to him as well. And some of like the bigger names that I've worked, guys like AJ Francis recently, Nick Nemeth, Matt Riddle, who I'm actually Friday, June 6th, I will be having a match against in South Carolina. But I worked him last year as well in Glen Burnie, Maryland. So guys like that is like learning from those individuals. Steve Macklin, Alex Hammerstone, Heath Slater, Heath Miller now, Fandango. I can go down the line, like a lot of the learning from a lot of those guys. Bear Bronson, another guy. They all taught me a lot of stuff, especially when I was newer. And they were all great human beings, great people. And I feel like I was able to gain their respect. But they also, understood like, hey, I'm gonna help you out and teach you a bit. So, every chance you get in the ring is a chance to learn. Like I said, even if it's somebody that's not that talented, you got to learn how to, quote unquote, carry the person, or, make them look good, or lead the match, because, a good worker can do that. So, and it's always something that I'm working on. So.
In the last few months that I've been following your social media, you really lead with positivity. It's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. You've been making these awesome videos on Twitter. Talk to me about this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks, dude, for pointing that out. So yeah, 2 years ago, I'll kind of backtrack a little bit, but 2 years ago, I started making reels and just having fun. I just, there's a lot of silliness in professional wrestling, and so I would make fun of the guys with the big egos or the promoters who are shady or stuff like that. And a lot of the workers, they get it and they understand. Some people don't understand. Some people like to get really mad at me over this stuff. And I just had a guy telling me all my stuff's not funny and unoriginal. And I'm just like, I mean, to you maybe,
Yeah,
but look at all the rest of the comments. The people aren't saying that. But again, you're not going to please everybody, and I know that it's subjective. Comedy's subjective. But I made a post the other day because I always found it funny how the female wrestlers are always so nice to each other on social media, and they
yeah,
always post like, yes, girl, yes, queen, oh, you're stunning, you're beautiful, all this stuff. But the guys don't do anything like that, right? So
yeah.
we don't really support each other as much. So I made the post about, if males posted like females on social media. And it was pretty funny. And actually Drew Hood, a wrestler out of North Carolina, um, he mentioned, oh, this is great for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I didn't even think about that. Like the post wasn't meant for that.
Right, right.
I was just doing it because it was just an idea I had, which most of my ideas come from. It's just really on the fly. And so I was like, you know what? Oh, I didn't think about that. So I thought, we as wrestlers, the whole culture of wrestling is almost built on tearing each other down. Like you're
Hmm.
gonna politic and you're gonna carny, and you're gonna try to backstab and you're gonna try to, get a spot over somebody else. And I just think that's what people are like think that they have to do. The old adage of like you can either make friends or make money.
Hmm.
I understand that in some sense, and like sometimes you got to be cutthroat, and sometimes maybe you have to make decisions that are going to be the best for you. But at the same time, I don't believe in that. Honestly, I really don't. I think that we can all lift each other up to an extent. Obviously, you want to look out for number one, you want to look out for you,
Hmm.
but it's important that as a whole, as a culture of wrestling, that we're building each other up. And I think that independent wrestling takes such a toll on people's mental health, whether, and it happens to me still too. And I try to stay as positive as possible, but you'll see 100 positive comments. And just now I saw the guy named Bill, comes at me and tells me you're ruining the business, you're horrible, you're this, you're that, and all these like mean things that he didn't need to post, but he just
Yeah.
thought, he had to. And, I made the mistake of going back and forth with Bill. But um, at this at so that can really hurt. That can take a toll on someone's mental.
Yeah.
And a lot of people all the time are telling you like, oh, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you need work, you need this, you need that, you're not good enough. So why not just hype people up a little bit, and like and the videos, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, silly little videos, but like, hey man, I see what you're doing. And I wish I could do it for everybody. It takes some time to edit. Now I put myself in a hole. I got to do one every day.
Yeah.
So the month of June, I got number three all ready to go. I got day three already queued up. But it's it's something that I hope it brings awareness. It's not my goal. I like making content. I want to support and try to lift people up, physically and mentally. I want to be able to do that, and use my platform for it. Maybe it's just something different. So it's getting a good response. That again, it's not my intention to get a bunch of likes or get a bunch of comments or get people to tell me like how nice I am of a person for
Yeah.
doing this. it's more so like I just hope the person that I'm targeting that day, um, it gets a smile on their face, and it's just like, hey, this week's been rough, but this is really cool what Ben did. And I appreciate him for it. And I just hope more people will do that. I hope like especially men, we have a hard time complimenting each other. I think it's something that we need to change. And to shout out a few guys who do a great job, like Landon Hale. I want to give him a shout out. He's one of the most genuine human beings in professional wrestling. And he's a guy who does that a lot. Vinny Pacifico as well. Reaches out and just like always checks in. Hey, how you doing? This, that, and the other. And always comes up with a compliment. Those are just two really good guys that have really good mindsets, and I think that more people should be doing that.
I love it. You're exactly right. There's not enough positivity amongst men. We don't give each other our flowers enough. I'm all here for it. You touched on the social media aspect of your career, and you've really
Yeah.
weaponized this. How has it impacted your ability to get booked?
Yeah. So it's funny, because a lot of people would be like, "Oh, you don't get booked. This isn't going to help you get bookings." I'm like, "Well, it has." So, I mean, that's just the fact.
Yeah,
There's no subjectivity to that. It has helped me get booked. And are there some promoters that maybe won't book me because of it? Sure, but you know what? They weren't booking me anyway. So, like, I don't know what, like, it doesn't change anything. But I've been able to get opportunities with major company, like Beyond. Like, I wasn't Beyond was never interested in me, and then I made these videos. Drew Cordero saw them, and in October he's like, "Yeah, we'd love to have you on a show in Providence, which is my home state." And then I've done a few shows in the later half of 2024. Haven't been able to get back up there, but he said to me, "Jay, just let me know if you're up here. We'll find a spot for you. And we'll get you up here sometimes if we can make it work." So that's a great, that was something that I got booked. I got to team with Jeff Jarrett based on my social media. He loved it. He loved all the stuff, all the Shindy promoter stuff. Still to this day, he likes a lot of my stuff. And now it's like it's come to the point, Ray, where I'll go to shows and again, like I don't think of myself as more important than anybody. Like that nobody. I don't care who it is. It could be somebody one day into wrestling. It could be somebody that's been wrestling for 20 years. I treat everybody the same, right? If you're respectful to me, I'm going to be respectful to you. That's it. That's a very simple formula, you
yeah,
know. So I, but it's cool to like walk into locker rooms and now people like I love what you're doing. This is so cool. Like I think this is like a cool, neat idea. And in people are like excited to work with me and they want to do stuff because they know like I'll post the clips and I'll put them over and I'll do that type of stuff and it makes me happy because it makes me kind of like etching out like my own kind of lane in professional wrestling, which I never thought would happen. So it's kind of humbling, and it's really something that I've strived for. I never thought that I'd be considered kind of a quote unquote indie darling, and to an extent at this point. But it is really cool. So it's helped a lot, and I know people will again. You're gonna once you get more and more popular, you're gonna have more and more people not like you,
yeah.
and that's okay. But because it has helped, it's helped. Because before I was doing any of it, I was still the same size. I've gotten better in the ring, but like it's not like there was this giant jump from 2 years ago. It's just that now I have been able to get eyes on me and views, and I just watched the Logan Paul documentary, Paul American, and he said that's the currency when it comes to it. It's like attention.
Yeah.
Like, are you getting eyes on you? Like it doesn't matter how you're getting eyes on you, as long as you're not doing anything illegal. But like, it's like but he's like, if you're getting eyes on you and people are paying attention to you, if people hate you, whatever, it's still eyeballs. It's still
Yeah.
eyeballs. So
It's a wrestling game in its core, right? Talk to me
it
about the
is. It
Shindy
is
God,
eyeballs.
Bob Furio.
So yeah, so that just came to fruition out of happenstance. Me and I'd always joke with buddies, riding with Ellsworth, we'd always joke around Shindy. And I still to this day people don't really know what I mean. They kind of figure it out what it is, but shit independent wrestling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shindy. So I just out of one day, I had this big Carhartt jacket, like a cheesy members only hat, and I'm just like, you know what? Let me just make this character, right? The Shindy promoter, because we've all seen it. We've all seen the funny tactics promoters use, whether not paying the boys on time, the overbooked cards, putting themselves over for the title, all these little like Shindy tactics that we all laugh about and we joke
Mhm.
about. So I'm like, why not make it? Why not make it a character? And I just And the voice just came about. Everyone thinks I'm trying to do an Adam Sandler voice. That wasn't my intention, but the voice just kind of came out of nowhere. And I just thought like, hey, why don't you just make this like depressing, shisty, like crappy promoter that like nobody wants to work for and has this miserable life, but in his head he thinks he's the man and he thinks he's so great.
Right.
But you can see behind his eyes that he's also in so much pain. And the cool thing is that you know yeah, I'm really, my niche is wrestling, right? Like
Mhm.
it's really interesting to see a lot of people from different gig work, like musicians, comedians, who are just like, this is what happens with us too. We deal
Yeah.
with these type of guys all the time too. And that's fun, and that's just like interesting to me to see, is that like, it's not just wrestling. Like all gig work, that we see all this stuff. And whenever you want to like grow, especially in entertainment where it's so subjective, um, you're going to deal with people like this. And I always compare independent wrestling to comedy, to stand-up comedy, where, Bill Burr was he's considered one of the greatest comedians now and of all time.
Sure.
But you look at Bill Burr 15 some odd years ago, he was playing in clubs with 20 people. He wasn't selling out arenas every night, when he started. And I'm sure he had many people tell him, you're not funny, you're horrible, you're
Yeah.
never gonna make it. You're just some gangly looking redhead from Boston that no one likes, like you're a dime a dozen in Boston, so, and I'm sure he had people telling him that. But you know what? It's just the best the best talent to have when it comes to this type of stuff, and now I'm going out on a tangent, but the best talent to have when it comes to like doing like any type of entertainment is like persistence. Who's sticking around?
Yeah.
You can have somebody so talented, they could be the most talented person, but it's like after 2 years, they're like, hey, I haven't gotten anywhere. Like I should be on TV, or I should be headlining Coachella, or I should be this or whatever. And like I'm not. So like what am I like, what, forget it. But then somebody else, maybe not as much talent, talented, just like, hey, I'm gonna keep going. And
Mhm.
that's the person that ends up getting there because hey, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna see where it works. And there's been plenty of times where I thought like, I've dealt with the Shindy promoters and I'm like, do I really want to do this? But it's like, just keep going. And you just gotta keep going and you gotta keep trying to see what happens next. And things have been going in the right direction. And I'm very fortunate for it.
Um, Talking about Shindies, the independent scene right now,
Yeah.
with AEW, WWEID, you've been in the game 6 years now. I think you have a good idea of what the business is like. Do you think it's in a healthy place?
I think so. I think it's in a very healthy place, and that's not just like the political answer. I truly think so. It depends on who you ask.
Sure.
There are definitely a lot of bitter people out there who are going to say it's not in a healthy place. I've had this conversation a lot when it comes to WWEID. Um, People say, the popular internet thing for a while was that it's ruining the indies. Oh, WWE's taking over the indies. It's 19 people.
Yeah.
It's not taking any, and actually 18 right now because Freedom Ramsey is no longer part of it. He decided he just wanted to go do something else, and all power to him. But it's not. It's 18 people now. They're and I've been on shows with them. I know a lot of them personally. A lot of the ID folks. Um, this thing where people think like that they're just taking over the indies. They have to win. They have to do this. They have to do that. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. They're just getting some spotlight put on them. They're hard workers, the guys and the gals in the program, and I think it's cool. Again, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like AEW does something similar. They don't have. It's not called AEW ID or anything, but they
Yeah.
have individuals who are under contract who work the indies, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's great. I think more spotlight is put on the indies instead of WWE, like in the past, looking at the indies as like the big time minor league, bad, no, you guys suck. Like we don't want anything to do with you. But now with a new regime in, it's seeming to be different. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
let's go send somebody over to Reality of Wrestling. Let's send Brian Pillman Jr. over to Deep South Wrestling, Hog Wrestling, wherever it may be. You know, it's giving people more of an opportunity to go to these indie shows. And it's like, oh, well, I got to see Ivy Nile at Reality of Wrestling. But hey, I also liked Will Allday, who's one of the guys that works there. I want to come more and watch him. Maybe Ivy's not going to be at every show, but I like the show now. Now I'm here. Now I want to come more often. And I think that's cool. I think AEW has helped the indies a lot. I thought AEW Dark, for whatever people might say about it, it was awesome for independent wrestling, just giving people a platform and getting people to know more indie wrestlers. Um, so when you're always looking at things, I think of it like this too. When you're always looking at things with like a glass half empty, you're gonna find the bad. You can find the bad in anything.
Hmm.
Like it's the same thing. You can make any stat like back up your opinion, right? You
Yeah.
c- you can. So I think that, if you look at it from a glass half full, I think more of a spotlight is being put on the indies. Now granted, it there's not every indie's good. So it's not like,
Yeah.
every single independent wrestling company is great. And I do see the issue sometimes when you have a lot of indies in one area, especially if one is really bad and someone goes to that show and it's like, oh, this must be what they're all like if they don't know any better. And that's a problem. But I think when it comes to involvement from AEW and WWE, I don't I don't see any major issue and issues with it. I think it's only going to help indies a little bit more.
Do you think AEW Dark is missed for independent wrestlers?
I think so. I think so. I think that it was a great opportunity to get exposure on a major platform. I mean, AEW Dark at its height was being watched by 500, 600,000 people every week.
Yeah.
It was definitely an awesome platform for independent wrestlers, especially during the pandemic when they didn't have as much going on. Um, I think it's surely missed. I know they do a lot of like kind of Ring of Honor has like a dark aspect to it right now, but they're still doing their own thing and they have their own wrestlers on it, so it's not as much focused on independent wrestlers or extras. But I think I do believe that it is missed in a way. Do I think it's 100% needed at this point? Maybe not, but I do think it's missed. I think a lot of wrestlers were able to get a lot of good exposure. Um, the magic word in professional wrestling. I think a lot of wrestlers get a lot of good exposure being part of AEW Dark.
Yeah, I remember the Monster Factory documentary on Apple. It was like a big deal for the wrestlers to just be, I mean, talking about being featured in AEW, of course, but to be on Dark was a
Yeah,
coveted opportunity for those
of
trainees.
course. And it should be treated as such, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm one of the first reels I made was like the independent wrestler who was on Dark and now acts like a hot shot. Um, and I never wanted that to be taken the wrong way because it is a big deal. Like
Yeah.
it means that you look like something, they're somewhat interested, they want to see you work, even if they're not going to sign you, it's like, okay, well, we appreciate it. We want to put this person on our, TV,
Mhm.
like so that should be taken as as a badge of honor. But again, I always say like you gotta be humble at the same
Yeah.
time. You can't walk around acting like you're a hot shot because you were on Dark once, and that's how you're just gonna get a bad reputation in wrestling. So, so yeah, I always tell people be happy, understand what it is, be professional, do what you need to do, but don't think you're better than anybody just because you got that spot, because that's what hurts, and that's what hurts wrestling.
You also had the opportunity to wrestle Roderick Strong on Rampage.
I
What
sure did.
behind the
Good
scenes, what
thing,
was
good
that?
thing you didn't blink.
Well, behind the scenes, what was that experience like?
It was kind of a hectic day, man. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. Shout out Sean Dean for getting me an opportunity to be invited to AEW. I didn't know I had a match. Actually, it was kind of sprung on me. I found out from Kevin Matthews, one of the producers there. He's like, "Hey, you have a match?" I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, it's on Rampage." I'm like, "Oh, I was already in gear because I took pictures, so."
Mhm.
Luckily, I didn't have to change. Um, and I was just like, when is it? He's like, like a few hours, like 2 hours. And I'm like, okay. And who am I wrestling? He's like, Roderick. I'm like, how long we have? 2 minutes. I'm like, okay. Well, here we go. We'll figure something out. He's great. He's a great guy, Roderick Strong. So it was enjoyable to work with him. I would love to work him in a real match, with a little bit more time. But he he was very appreciative. He understood what it was, and he kind of, I think it worked out best for me,
Mhm.
not being able to get any real offense in, because I was able to, make lemonade out of lemons, really, and just whatever was just given to me. Um, and so it worked out fine. At the time, I was like, oh man, I'm the size that I am is kind
Yeah.
of, I felt like this looks a little silly, but I understood what it was, and I was gonna be professional. But yeah, it ended up, working out well for socials.
You are 6'12" and 15% of a metric ton.
Yeah, you're damn
I
right.
feel like oftentimes today, big wrestlers are not used to their fullest extent. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that there has been more of a, I guess we can say, like more of an influx of the admiration for smaller wrestlers
Yeah.
than there was back in the day, especially like the 80s and the 90s. They deserve their shine. The big wrestlers used to be the ones who ruled the whole business. And you'll ask a lot of older individuals from different generations, and they'll probably say, I liked when wrestlers looked big or different, because they look at it as a circus. And people like the elephants, they might not like the acrobats. So they want to see something, a little bit different than what's walking down the street every day.
Hmm.
I think um has a space in wrestling, whether you're a big guy or a small guy. I don't think the size matters as much as what matters is how can you connect with the audience. So I think that's what the big deal is. It's less about okay, I mean, look at guys like, Eddie Guerrero, and I'm just talking about his work, but like Chris Benoit, not big guys, but
Yeah.
they got over because of their characters and because of their believability in the ring. And I'm obviously talking about two of the best ever, but it wasn't a big size issue with them. They looked the part. They were big, wide guys, not tall guys,
Hmm.
but they were able to get over because of their characters and their believability. I think that's what's more important. I think, but I do see, like, there is definitely like the niche, loud minority of fans that like the work rate a lot, and like the guys that are going to go an hour and a half, have an hour and a half match.
Hmm.
Um, that's not, it's definitely not something that's like TV friendly for
Yeah.
the majority audience. The
Sure. Yeah.
majority audience likes, the 6 to 8 to 10 minute matches that, you get down to business. And then you show your characters in other ways, whether it be promos or entrances or something like that. So, there was a point when, like, in the first few years I started wrestling, where I kind of always said to myself, like, like, what the heck? Like, look at my size, like, but I've changed my mindset where, like, wrestling doesn't owe us anything, and I just think that, if my time comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but I'm enjoying it. I'm living out a dream I never thought I'd live. I never thought I'd be a wrestler. I used to say to myself, like, I would love to just have one match. I'd love to just be involved in wrestling somehow. Like, I don't care what I do. I'll set up the chairs. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to be involved with wrestling. I want to hang out with wrestlers. I want to be, and it's like I always try to take myself back to that, and like you know, think about what 8, 9-year-old Ben would think, right?
Mhm.
8, 9-year-old Ben would think 35-year-old Ben's the coolest guy in the world, and just like, just think about that,
That's
and think
awesome.
about, and that's the mindset I've changed. There's like, if my time comes, amazing. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best. But if it doesn't, you know what? I've gotten to do something that a lot of people can't say they've done, like living out their dream. So it's something that it keeps me kind of grounded a bit and allows me to enjoy the moment a little bit more. My wife has always been the best at kind of making sure I do that. Like, you've done cool stuff. You've gotten to work out with DDP at his house. You've done stuff with Barstool Sports. You've gotten opportunities to meet all these people that you never thought you'd meet and actually be like their peer, not just a fan to them. Like, you're part of it. You're working with people that you've never thought that you get to be in a ring with. Like, I mean, I can't. It was just when I got to face Nick Nemeth, like, and this is no disrespect to any of the other bigger names that I've faced as well, but it just kind of hit me in that moment. And this was only 2 months ago, where I was just like, holy, holy crap, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched this guy for years on WWE TV, and he's still at the top of his game. He hasn't fallen off at all,
Yeah.
you know? So, and it's like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, so it's like you got to take yourself, and I had to stay in character and, get ready for the match. But as he's walking through the ropes, I'm just like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? Like,
That's awesome.
like, almost you're having imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing here? So, yeah, man, it's a long answer to a short question, but I think that I think big guys Um, Definitely they have their space in wrestling, and I think we definitely got to continue to use big guys and utilize them in better ways,
Yeah.
because they are natural draws. But you know, the small guys and they have equal of a right to have a space in wrestling. But again, it's character
Yeah.
you got to get over with the audience. I don't care how big you are. If you're over with the audience, you're over with the audience.
But I don't, you said something. How did the DDP connection come about?
Yeah, so I started doing DDP yoga when I was in. I gotta say DDPY or he'd get mad. So I started doing DDPY when I was in college. I actually herniated my discs, and I was either gonna have surgery or figure something else out. I didn't want to have surgery when I was a senior in college, so I was playing basketball, and I just decided like, I knew DDP. I was always a big fan of DDP growing up. And I saw he started doing this yoga system. It started popping up all over my social media. So I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. My mom got me all the DVDs. This was before the app. Got me all the DVDs for my birthday. And I started doing it about 5, 6 days a week,
Mhm.
doing the yoga. And it made me feel so much. I got flexible. I was able to not have to worry about getting back surgery. Um, it helped me out a lot. And then, years go by in Maryland, I started training at this place called Life Med, with this guy by the name of Kent Backler. And he was helping me out, getting strength back in my left leg where I've had a bunch of surgeries. But he was really close with DDP. And when I told him I was going to move to Atlanta, he connected me with Dallas in that way. So I hit him up. Dallas is one hell of a guy. I just kind of introduced myself and he's like, yeah, all right, brother, come over for a workout. And I was like, just
Wow.
like that. Like, he's like, yeah, come on. He's like, come over. So I was like, are you serious? And then I'm like, okay. So that was 3 years ago and I went over and, it's not all the time thing. We do it every now and then, but, he's a great guy. He's a master marketer. The guy
Yeah.
is a walking, a walking billboard.
Yeah.
And I know that's why he's successful. He's very inspiring, especially to me because he was somebody who started wrestling later as well. He didn't start till he was like 33. So, and I didn't start till I was 29. So he's somebody that I like look up to in that sense. But just a good guy. I've gotten invited to his Christmas parties now, and he throws these huge Christmas parties every year. So it's a really cool friendship, and I really appreciate the bond that we built.
Another WCW legend that you worked with, you mentioned Jeff Jarrett, tag team match, I guess a show he promoted.
Yep.
What was that experience like, and what's Jeff Jarrett like as a guy?
Man, I love Jeff. So how it came up was when I was at AEW, I was walking by catering and I guess Jeff was sitting there with Kevin Matthews and Jeff looked up and he goes, "Who the hell's that guy?" I'm just walking by with just a tank top on and I'm in gear. They're like, "Oh, that's Ben." And Jeff's like, "Who's Ben?" And Kevin's, it's like, "Oh, you don't know him?" He's like, "No, I don't know who Ben is." He's like, "Hey, take the look. This is," like, he started sort of showing my social media. And I guess Jeff just loved it. Jeff
Yeah.
was like, "This is amazing." So he came up to me and he started ribbing me a little bit. He said like, I got a show, and he's like, but you got to do the job to my son who's 14. He started doing a rib to me, like one of the videos that I have.
Right,
I
right.
didn't realize it took me a few seconds to kind of figure out what he was doing. But he's just a genuinely kind human being. Um, you know, I've talked to him on the phone a bunch. I've kind of asked for his advice here and there. And we keep up again, every now and then. He's a busy guy, but we keep up with each other. And it was really cool for him to, book me on the show and to get to book to be in a match with him, getting to do the strut, hit the stroke. I was like, there's a one chance. This is like a once in a lifetime chance. So I got gear made that looked like his WWF gear. I called myself Double B. I came out to with my baby tonight with the loudspeaker. So it was really cool, and he has a great family. Karen. I don't want to kill kayfabe, but Karen's a sweetheart too. And
Right,
of
right.
course, their son Cody. Really nice kid, and he kept telling me how much he loves the Shindy promoter gimmick, and he loves the videos. And Karen was funny because she's like, "Oh, I always just hear that voice in the house, and I hear them laughing hysterically and stuff." So, just hearing stuff like that's cool, man. When you just like it's like you get the opportunity that like guys that I like idolized growing up are now just like fans of yours, and it's something that is never it'll never be lost on me again. I think that's just a really cool thing.
Does a crowd like Tennessee have more of an appreciation for you than maybe
Oh,
some
they're
other
one.
parts of the country?
Oh, dude, Tennessee crowds are my favorite, some of my favorite crowds to work in front of. They know wrestling. They love it. They appreciate the Memphis style, if you want to call it that. They like the theatrics. They like the pageantry of it. That's what they want. You look at any like Ricky Morton match
Yeah.
or exactly Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Lawler, like those type of matches. They love that. So yeah, I always tell people if you ever worked in Tennessee, I'm like, hey man, involve the crowd. That's all you got. It just have them with they will get who the heel is and who the face is very quickly, but you got to make sure they know, or they're not gonna let that you could go out there and you could do every athletic move in the book. You could do 450s, shooting star presses, this, that, and the other, and they can sit on their hands. If they don't know who they're supposed to cheer or who they're supposed to boo, they won't. They
Yeah.
won't, they won't do it. But then you can go out there, do nothing but rile the crowd up for 5 minutes, didn't do a body slam, the place is going to erupt because they know what they're almost conditioned in
Right.
Tennessee to what they're supposed to what they know. I love Tennessee crowds. I mean, I think I always tell that is some of my favorite. Those are some of my favorite fans to wrestle in front of because that's where when I first started, that's where I was wrestling the most was in Tennessee. Even though I was trained in Maryland, but I'd have to drive to Tennessee because the pandemic, they wouldn't allow the commission wouldn't allow wrestling in Maryland. So I had to go to Tennessee a lot. So that was where I really kind of cut my teeth was in the Memphis territory ran by Burt Prentice, if you know Burt Prentice who's a rest in peace. He was one of the old, and this is a term of endearment when I say it. He was an old school carny,
Yeah.
and he 100% was, and everybody says it, and everybody that's from that area has an awesome Burt Prentice story. So I always like to see guys like James Storm, who I say Eric Young, who I
Mhm.
got rode up to Jeff's show with, and Chase Stevens, who's still wrestling in the Nashville area. Um, I love like just sharing Burt Prentice stories because they all have great ones, and I have a few, but and so we always get a good laugh when I see guys like that.
How many days a month are you on the road right now?
It's not crazy, man. I do have a full-time job, so I do work a 9 to 5. And right now, I would say coming up, I'm going to have a lot of days on the road because I got my match in South Carolina coming up on Friday, and then I'm going to be traveling to Jacksonville for River City Con. Hopefully, wrestling going to show up, see if I can get a spot. That's how we do it. But being able to network there, and then I'm going to go train down in Orlando with Ace Steel for a few days. So I'll be
Wow.
there. I'll be there until Thursday. So Friday to Thursday. So that's not normal. That's not normal. So like, usually it's not like that, but got some things that I have in the pipeline right now that are kept keeping under wraps for a bit. But I'm trying to do some training and train with the right people. So he's a great trainer. Ace Steel.
Yeah.
Anybody that's looking to get into wrestling, the foundation of professional wrestling in Orlando, I'd say Ace has trained CM Punk. But you gotta just it's that's all you really gotta say. But
Uh,
he was trained under Harley. Yeah, you heard of him. But he was trained under Harley Race. So he knows he is a wrestling savant. He runs a great school where it's just hard enough where he will tell you how it is, but he's also patient at the same time. He's a one hell of a trainer. And anybody who either listen to this or wants to get into professional wrestling, I would say if you really want to take training seriously and start training, that's a place to go. Is the foundation with Ace Steel.
is it common for wrestlers on the independents or otherwise to go back to a training school while you're actively wrestling? And
Oh yeah, yeah, because there's a lot of stuff you can work on, and a lot of guys will go to like 2 or 3 schools. I've known people that have done the Nightmare Factory, have done and have done Black and Brave. I've known people who have done the Monster Factory and also did Create a Pro um, in New Jersey. I've a ton of people. Now I've only, I've done like classes here and there at different schools. So I've done like Nightmare Factory, just a couple months there, not in their full like camp,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but some of their like advanced classes.
Mhm.
I've done that. I've done obviously the foundation. I've gone down to Fighting Spirit for a class, which is run by Pete Dunne and Zach Gibson, and other I forget James Drake, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so yeah, so doing a few. doing a few classes here and there is always good. It's always good to go back to basics, sharpen skills a little bit, maybe work on something that, you think you're doing right, but it's like, hey, let's clean that up. Like, so that's what I've done with Ace, is that, he's cleaned up a few things. Hey, I think my strikes are good. It's like, hey, but maybe like to fine tune it this way or do something a little bit different, and it'll look better. And so I've taken a lot of the what I've learned there and been able to apply it to matches so far. So I think, getting in especially if you're not on the road, like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, having matches, it's good to pop into a class every now and then and learn from somebody new because you can
Yeah.
always pick something up.
If you had to recommend one of your matches to someone who's never seen you before, what match would it be?
Yeah, so definitely the easy answer would be the one against Nick Nemeth.
Okay.
I think that one is definitely one of my favorite matches of all time. But also one that just got posted yesterday, and I went back and watched it, and it was great. It was against Colby Carter, a guy out of Nashville,
Hmm.
Coastal Championship Wrestling, runs some great shows in Nashville at the Texas Troubadour Theater, every, I believe, third Saturday a month. And watching it back, I was just like, wow, like this was a really good match. Like it made a lot of sense. He's a smaller guy, like shorter, but he's big, and he has some size to him. So it looked like two big wrestlers going at it, hard hitting. He's trained by Tom Latimer and Jerry Lynn, who have both trained him. So he's had some like top-notch training. So that would be one, a recent one that I'd say go back and watch that because, that's those another, if you want to see a guy that's also like very hungry, and I'm not saying Nick Nemeth isn't, but Nick Nemeth has had his years in the
Yeah.
sun, right? So but like against Colby Carter, it's a guy to keep your eye on. He's another guy who started later as a wrestler, but he's a great athlete. He was a football player in college. And so I'd say watch that one. Yeah, Ben Bishop versus Colby Carter. It's on my YouTube as well. So
Okay.
I put it up there, but it's a really good match.
Are there any wrestlers that you haven't worked that you would love to in the future?
Yeah, number one that comes to mind, well, number one, the biggest like pipe dream one, and maybe it'll happen one day, but is Gunther. He's my favorite wrestler right now. I love
Yeah.
Gunther.
Yeah.
Just how he works is incredible. Especially he works like a big man. He's not exactly a big man, but like
6'4",
he
right?
kind of
Yeah.
is. He kind of is. I'd say that. I'd love to work Matt Taven as well because I've always been a fan. I was never like a huge fan. I was always really mostly a WWE fan through like the later
Mhm.
2010s and the 2020s. Um, but I always kept up with Matt Taven because I met him at an indie show. I didn't go to many indie shows, but I met him and he was very cool. And I bought his merch. And that's what I tell indie wrestlers. Like I tell them, make connections with these fans because they will remember you.
Yeah.
Like they don't care. You might look at it and be like, I'm a nobody. I'm not in WWE. I'm not in AEW. I'm not in TNA. Like, they're not going to care who I am. No, they will. Like, I remembered, and Matt Taven at the time was in Ring of Honor, and I didn't really watch Ring of Honor, but I'd keep up with Ring of Honor because of Matt Taven.
Hmm.
So so that's just something I'd let a lot of indie wrestlers know, like make connections with these people. They want to like you. Like, and
Yeah.
if you make that connection, whether it be with a little kid or, a teenager or who doesn't matter, or it could be a 30, 40-year old, like just, give them the time of day, talk to them a bit at the merch table. I'm sure your merch table isn't 100 people deep, so you can make connections with people
Yeah.
very easily, you know? And so that's what I try to do. And these people remember you and they just be like, hey, you were nice to me at an indie show. I want to be your fan. I want to be a fan of yours for life, because you took the time to talk to me or took time to talk to my son or daughter. And that means a lot to them. So I'd put Matt Taven up there. Um, I'm finally getting a match against Richard Holiday, which I've wanted for a while, happening on June 21st in Nashville at
Okay.
CCW. So I'm really excited for that one. So that one is happening. Um, but anyone else, I've never been one to make lists, Ray.
Yeah.
I'm not like a big, like, oh, here's my dream list of opponents. I love working new people. I love learning from new people. I, some guys I'll always say like I'll work them every night if I could, but it's always better working with new people, no matter who it is. It's
Yeah.
you learn a little bit more. So I would just, whoever, it, I'd work with anybody. I want to have fun, tell good stories, enjoy it, put on a good show for the fans. But just some of those that I mentioned, those are definitely on a dream list.
If you had to pick four teammates to join you in a War Games match, who would they be?
Of all time or like just right
However you
now?
want to answer it.
Well, if we're gonna let's do all time. So
Okay.
I'm gonna be pretty strategic about this. So Arn Anderson, number one, he seems like he's been in enough of them, and I'm gonna start him off in the War Games match. So Arn Anderson will start off. He'll be our workhorse in the War Games match. I think after that, I'm gonna have to go with somebody like a probably go with CM Punk.
Love it.
Having CM Punk in a War Games match, he's cerebral enough. We'll throw in Randy Orton, myself, and the anchor for the team coming in at the end of the War Games match. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna just have to go with Big Sexy. We're gonna stack the team with real big guys, so we're gonna have Big Sexy come in at the end.
Hours.
And
I
he doesn't
love
have to, he doesn't have to work too much. We're gonna make sure he has a nice. He has we'll do all the work for him, and he'll come in and clean up the scraps. But yeah, that's it. That's it off the top of my head. We'll go with that.
I love it. Every week I review one vintage match for my column, 20th century. Can you recommend a match for me to review next week?
Match to review. Like, does it? You said decade matters or doesn't matter?
Pre 2000, but anything's fair. Anything's fair game.
Pre 2000, you said.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. I would say, have you watched or have done a review of the Survivor Series match with Kevin Nash and Bret Hart?
No, no, that's
That
awesome.
one. I believe it's 95. It's neither 94 or 95. I think it's 95. That's one of my favorite matches ever. I
Okay.
always say if I had to work one person in my life, if a dream opponent, in their prime, it was always Bret Hart. It would always be Bret Hart just because of how good he makes everybody look. And always Nick Nemeth was second. Fortunately, I got that one. But yeah, so I would say that one. Do that one.
That's
Kevin
great.
Nash for the WWE Championship at Survivor Series 95.
I love it.
One of my favorite finishes too, and you'll know it. I've done that finish a lot. So when you see that finish, you'll be like, oh, okay. It makes sense.
I love it. Where can people find you online, and are there any upcoming matches you'd like to promote before we sign?
Yeah, so online, I'm everywhere at Big Trouble BB. I tell everybody, um, I'm an open book, man. Like if you want to conversate, you want to have fun on social media. I don't take myself too serious. You can poke fun at me in a playful way. I don't care. Like I laugh at myself. What we do is silly and fun, and it should be silly and fun. So please, and if you want to be a dick, then I just probably won't talk to you. But I always tell anybody that wants to interact, please do. Um, so at Big Trouble on Twitter, Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok. Oh, hello, my dog just got back from daycare. And so it's yeah, like I said, interact with me with there. I post a lot of reels. I try to post a lot of content. Um, and then matches coming up. Yep. So I don't know when this is airing, but Friday night, I'm wrestling Matt Riddle in Spartansburg, South Carolina at Big Time Wrestling. If it already happened, I hope it went well. But that's a great match. Love Matt. He's a really good brother. And I'm excited to see him and kick his ass. Uh, and I would say after that match, I'm teaming with Enzo, which just kind of makes sense.
That's awesome.
Next Friday night in Maryland. After that, I got a match against Alan Martinez in Port St. Lucie, Florida for CCW. I only hear great things about Alan. I'm not super familiar with his work. I've seen a little bit of it. Really good wrestler. It's going to be a big guy, small guy match. I think he's about 5'5", 5'6". It'll be interesting. Be very interesting. Um, but then Richard Holiday on June 21st. July 18th, I also have another match. Actually, I forgot to mention him on somebody that I'm really looking forward to wrestle is Bishop Dyer, formerly known as Baron Corbin. So that match is July 18th in Hagerstown, Maryland, which is another one. I think he's really one of the better big men workers of the last 10 years. So
Mhm.
that'll be interesting as well. So I think a lot of cool stuff coming up, man. But again, like what I say, I take it day by day. We have fun, we keep it rolling. I always say you keep it trucking till the wheels fall off. You just keep it moving. And that's my mantra. And we're gonna continue to enjoy the ride while it lasts because it won't last forever. Father Time's undefeated.
Yeah.
But while we're here, we're gonna enjoy the present and keep it and keep it positive. So
That's a killer lineup. Check this guy out on TikTok, Twitter. Great follow, great content. Like I said, equal parts athlete and entertainer. Thank you so much, Ben.
absolutely right. Thank you, man. I really enjoyed this. This was a great time.
All right, guys.